Hello and welcome back to the Fastest Podcast. Today we're going to be taking you through our Chinese Grand Prix preview and everything you need to know heading into the race weekend. Let's start off. What are we expecting? What do we anticipate, especially on the back of the Australian Grand Prix, where we saw Ferrari and Mercedes both extremely competitive? What are we expecting them to do this time round? Dan?
I expect more of the same, to be quite honest. It's only a week's break, so there's very little development or any that a team can do in that short space of time, because obviously they've got to get all their equipment over to China from Australia. So pretty much going to be the same cars within, a few minor tweaks. Having said that, I expect Mercedes to not have it fully their own way, because it isn't a power circuit, China. Obviously, Australia is. There's hardly any braking, so that's where the engine excelled. Ferrari might have the upper hand when it comes to sort of downforce or, the cornering, braking. But look, I'm all for it. I expect the top four to probably be Ferraris and Mercedes, barring any sort of mechanical failures.
I must say, this is going to be an interesting one, because while Melbourne was an energy-starving circuit, that's not the case in China. They have a lot of moments to recharge that battery, and I think that's particularly where Mercedes excelled, especially in qualifying, because they have that energy management so well under control. If they don't have that advantage, I think you're going to see a proper fight between the top teams.
Yeah, I mean, we are also hearing that Ferrari are bringing their very special rear wing with them to China. What do we think the impact will be of that?
I think it's a bold move by Ferrari to bring it to Shanghai. Obviously, they've got a really, really long back straight where it could be advantageous. The problem is they're not really going to know, because it's a sprint weekend. There is only one practice session.
Would you say that it's a bit of a silly move, or is it just we are confident in what we've got, we are confident in what this will do? Because that doesn't sound very Ferrari to me. So what do you guys think?
I think they can run it in the sprint race, see how it goes for them. If they drop points, it's not as much as they would lose during the Grand Prix. If it gains them, then they know they're onto something. So practice is key. The sprint could be key. And if it's not working, remove it, go back to the basics, and they'll be strong during the actual Grand Prix.
Yeah, I mean, from where I'm sort of standing, I think it makes sense to run it for a sprint weekend for exactly what you've just said. It's the best test, really, without losing out too much in a Grand Prix. We've seen other teams use Australia as their own testing session, so why not Ferrari? See how it pays off. Pigeon?
There's a lot more to lose for Ferrari than for Aston Martin.
But I mean, it's early in the season is kind of my point.
It
there,
is early in the season, but if you lose out in the end to Mercedes by 3 points, then China's going to be the moment where we shouldn't have done that. But like you said, I think it will be good to test it out early in the season, especially if it does get an advantage. They might bring it to more races. So going to be interesting. I don't think that the rotisserie chicken rear wing will be that advantageous in China, other than the final straight, because that mechanism takes a while to actually rotate, especially on the shorter straight mode zones. It's going to take a while before you get an actual effect into that rear wing. So it'll be interesting to see what Ferrari is going to do with that rear wing.
Sticking with Ferrari a little bit, Lewis Hamilton, he's got excellent form around this track. He won the sprint race last season in Shanghai. And let's face it, he's probably the most confident he's ever been since that sprint race. How does that bode, do you think, for him going in? Because, as I've said, very, very good form around this circuit. I think he's got the most driver wins around that circuit. Granted, they were with Mercedes and they're doing all right at the moment too. But what do you expect from him this weekend? Because I'm expecting a lot.
I'm expecting confidence from the guy. Didn't do too bad last year in the race either. until they both got disqualified. But I think they were running what, P4, P5, so not too bad either. Just didn't get the points on the board. But yeah, I think Ferrari's gonna be excited for China. This will suit them better than Australia did, and they got pretty close to taking some more points in that race as well. So yeah, excited.
Before we move away from Mercedes and Ferrari, I would like to talk a little bit about Kimi Antonelli. Now, I've been pondering this over the week, and I think that George Russell could have a little bit more competition on his hands than he thought. Now, that last stint, now there could be a million different reasons for this, and we know that they were both struggling with a few issues to do with their battery. But Antonelli was quicker than Russell at the end of that race, if I'm not mistaken. How do you think he's going to slot into this weekend?
Well, he has to get away from the line better to begin with.
Again, battery. That was the...
Yeah, but I think Russell also had the same problem, and Russell only dropped one place, and Antonelli sank like a stone. Granted, he made his way back past the cars, but yeah, I mean, why can't Antonelli go on and win some races this year? He's proven he's quick. I think he only ended up 3 seconds behind Russell in the end, and they did double stack the cars under the virtual safety car, so we would have lost a whole heap of time there.
You got to keep in mind, even though he got away badly in the race, in qualifying, he got into the car, which was destroyed a couple hours earlier, and posted it only half a second away from Russell, and still ahead of the field by miles. I think Russell is in for qualifying in pretty intense battles with a teammate, and I think Antonelli still can get the youngest pole sitter achievement.
Yeah, I think George will definitely have his work cut out for him a bit more than he was expecting. Let's move away now from the two front-running teams and to the midfield. Our current midfield was leading the pack last year. McLaren and Red Bull. Now, it was a bit of a touch and go weekend. Very much not clean and easy for either team in Australia. Now, we had Oscar Piastri crashing out on his reconnaissance lap. Heartbreaking to see, especially at his home race. Max Verstappen crashed out in Q1 in Australia. Hadjar qualified P3 and then DNF'd, and Norris was just sort of there drowning in the background. So, I mean, it was kind of a... It was not seamless. It was not seamless, and it was not the form that we expect from those two teams. What do you expect from them going into this weekend? Because we don't have the most confident racing drivers as we'd like them to be. Let's start with McLaren.
I mean, Piastri was plagued by a software issue, which was not his fault, and we didn't get to see any race running from him, so I think he's going to want to come back as strong as he can. I think he was pretty strongly outqualified Norris for the race.
Worth mentioning as well, I mean, Norris had a very rough time across pretty much every practice session and qualifying. And then the race, I don't know what exactly he was managing, but there was an issue there as well. Yeah, McLaren really on the back foot.
To be honest, I think everyone was managing some kind of issue in Australia, which I think is just going to be the new normal in F1, because we have even more sophisticated systems and even more things to take care of and even more things to manage. So yeah, we're going to see more issues, which is to be expected at the start of a new regulation set. But as far as pace goes, I think both of those drivers were pretty decent.
Maybe it's a changing of the guard, though, isn't it? Every regulation cycle, you were like 2013 Mercedes were there or thereabouts, but not really challenging. 2014, dominant. Then you had Ferrari to a small degree and Red Bull through the ground effect era until last season with McLaren. Well, the last couple of seasons with McLaren. Is it a changing of the guard? We will see. But one thing is, you can't write McLaren off because they are probably one of the best teams at developing throughout a season. So their car will get better. I am sure it will. So the Mercedes, the Ferraris, they need to be getting maximum points that they can before McLaren make that extra step.
I think we're going to see a massive development race this year because we got used to 2025, of course, and half the team stopped developing by, well, the halfway point last year. I think when we get to the end of kind of the Asian stint of the year, we're going to see the first massive upgrade packages being introduced. We could see a complete change of the guard then. I think Mercedes will be strong throughout the year because it's their engine. That's the big point for them. But I think McLaren will be disassembling those engines. They will be looking through the software. They'll be trying to find whatever it is that makes that engine so strong. Because don't forget, it is the same engine. They don't have the same manual, I think.
Red Bull, let's talk about them a little bit more. It's not a clear cut explanation of what's happening there, in my opinion. They were quite quiet in testing, apart from Max. He made a lot of noise. But other than that, they've been sort of thereabouts. No one's really known exactly what to expect from them. And then we saw two very different things happen for the drivers in the first qualifying. Max did what Max always does, and he did bring it back in the race. What can we expect from Red Bull?
What I will say is that I think he had more pace than Norris. Just by the time he got there, he couldn't quite just get past. He didn't, of course, get to do any qualifying. I think Red Bull is the solid third team at the moment, and that's just based on what Hajar was able to do. He was able to follow pretty closely. Verstappen was able to plow through the field up to P6, and I think Red Bull could be challenging for podiums and wins this year.
Yeah, they could. I think the problem for Red Bull is they need to get on top of the reliability issues quickly, because obviously it meant Hajar's out of the race. He scored nothing. Verstappen could only manage sixth because he started at the back of the grid. Had Verstappen started higher up, would he have been in and around the Mercedes and Ferrari? Probably not, but he probably would have been ahead of Norris. And maybe, with Ferrari's strategy, maybe he would have got them. We won't know. I don't think the Red Bull's got enough to carry him to be challenging for the championship this year, as things stand.
Let's close things up with our favourite part of the podcast. Let's do our predictions. Who do you think will take the top three in the sprint race? Let's start with the sprint.
I'm going for a Lewis Hamilton win in the sprint. And I think Leclerc will follow him behind in second. And I think Russell will round off the podium in third.
I'm going to say Lewis win, Russell P2, and Leclerc P3.
Ooh, I think Lewis win, 100%. I expect 2 Lewis wins this weekend. Thank you. And then I think, Russell P2. I honestly, Verstappen. Let's go for it. I think Verstappen will be on a podium at some point this weekend. So why not the sprint? And for Sunday, who are you expecting to be on pole, and who do you expect to win the race?
I'm changing it up a bit. I'm saying George Russell pole position. I don't think he's going to win the race. I'm going to say a Charles Leclerc win. I'm going to say Russell second, Antonelli third.
I'm going to mix it up even further. I'm going to go for Antonelli pole position.
Oh.
With Lewis Hamilton taking the race win, Russell second, Verstappen third.
I like it. I see the vision. I'm sticking with the Lewis win, but I do think Russell will be on pole because I don't think Mercedes will let it slide. I'll go for the Lewis win, Antonelli P2, Verstappen P3. Let's wrap things up there. Thank you so much for joining us for our Chinese Grand Prix preview. You can keep up to date with everything happening in the lead up to the race weekend across our social media. You can find us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter. Thank you so much for joining us. Keep an eye out for any updates, and we will see you in the next one.